Hello and welcome to the one and only show on business golf on Indian television. Here we get into the mind of the CEO and know what his golf strategy is, exactly how all of this is played out in the boardrooms. With me, Shaili Chopra, welcome to the show and our special guest today. Take a look. Meet Gunit Chadha of Deutsche Bank. After heading IDBI Bank in India and working at Citi across the world, he now joins me on this special show to chat about how he keeps his business on the course. Gunit, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Shaili.
Thanks so much for joining us. It's always a pleasure when you sort of make an effort to get out of the city and to a golf course that's almost in the hills.
Yeah, I think it's probably the best golf course in the country.
Yeah, that
Truly
probably is true.
Awesome.
So you and golf, I know, have come a long way, and you've sort of been a banker on the course for a long time, but how did golf really start for you?
I think it started a little late in life for me, as I started to find a little more time to myself.
You're almost suggesting that golf is a retired people's
I'm
headed
there. Well, my golf hasn't come a long way. I think my banking has come a long way, but my golf hasn't come a long way. But listen, it's a nice, relaxed sport. You spend a few hours with your buddies. I think it reveals a lot about yourself and your friends. So we enjoy it.
And did your army background sort of help in picking up the game?
I have to say, when I go back to Mau, which is where my parents do live, there's a very nice brown golf course, if you could have a nice brown golf course. But the army guys will understand that. Yeah, I do take a swing or two when I'm back in Mau.
Great. Of course, there's so much more to chat with Gunit, but we'll take our shots and we'll catch you ahead.
Into the sun, that's a good shot.
Awesome.
Great.
That's not bad.
Listen, I told you.
I have a lucky
blossom
charm.
late in life.
Yeah?
As a golfer.
All right.
Your shot. Go through.
Fast? No, I slipped back. But never mind.
Never mind.
Somebody has to drop halfway to get up and move ahead. Which is something must have happened to you during banking, I'm sure. Life's not full of a fairway, isn't it?
Not at all.
So where did the challenges come when you were growing up as a banker?
I think some of the early challenges were around, and especially if you grew up in India, there were far many more bull years than bear years. And really you understand risk management only when you've gone through the down cycles. Remember, even in the Asian crisis, India sort of stayed well ahead.
Yeah.
Through the tech crisis, it stayed well ahead. And even in the current crisis, frankly, India looked pretty good. So I think some of the biggest challenges have been that many bankers in India haven't seen sustained down cycles and how to respond to them.
Is that not a bad thing then? They haven't seen the worst.
I think it's a good idea to have been through troughs, so you can certainly plan for the future. So not having seen that deep enough and long enough, I think is probably one of the challenges which I think most bankers in India do face.
Yeah, but now that we're sort of coming out of this recession, what is that one lesson that you carried ahead, Gunit? Because at the end of the day, being a foreign bank in India, you must have sort of felt the heat from international pressures.
I think there were many lessons. So I think one can't just compress them into one. But if I had to pick a few central lessons, one was how to retain your client centricity while there were pressures around capital and pressures around leverage and pressures around balance sheet reductions which were facing most banks. So I think picking your clients, staying client-centric, being honest to the shareholders and being honest to the bank, and being honest to the clients, that was a great lesson. I think the second lesson I have to say was around risk management. What was sort of more a backroom activity suddenly became absolutely the prime importance. And anybody who didn't sort of respect that learned the hard way. So I think, and I think that continues into the future. Risk management, if anything else, takes even more center stage in every banker's life now.
So, having said that, how do you sort of engage most of your employees to realize this? Because that must be a bigger challenge than you alone, knowing that this is how we have to approach it. For those who were always looking at bigger bets, taking higher risk, how do you get them to cut it down in a significant way?
I think the message was loud and deep and pretty widespread across the global industry for employees. It was smart, very smart people to have figured that one out. Let's remember that Deutsche Bank came out of this crisis relatively in a far better position than many of our competitors.
Yeah.
So as a result, we got a lot of market share gains from clients into Deutsche Bank. Frankly, more talent wanted to join us rather than leave us, right? And so we've been beneficiaries in some ways, relative beneficiaries of this very tough period. And I think talent within the bank has seen that this is a good place for them to do business. And so the consciousness of staying the course, of becoming better risk managers, of understanding the benefits of transparency and client centricity, I think are very obvious to every employee.
Right.
You don't have to drill that in, especially when the impact's been so deep and wide.
Talking of the sector itself, I mean, it's sort of no surprise that the RBI doesn't really give a mulligan to a bank that hasn't done well for itself. But on the other hand, I know you're just coming back after winning a banking award. What do you think has been going in favor of Deutsche Bank here in India in terms of being the key driver?
I think a couple of things. Firstly, I just said it's good when the bank globally has been in a relatively better position and has been the beneficiary of market share gains, because clients want to deal with banks which are open for business. And nearer to home, I think we've avoided some of the big errors of judgment. So we stayed relatively light on a consumer finance. So we made our mistakes, but relatively light.
Yeah.
We stayed very light on commercial real estate. We stayed light on leverage finance. So I think we made far fewer mistakes during this last 18 months.
Well, what was it that didn't tempt you to enter these? I mean, I'm sure given the
Good luck.
state of... Okay,
Good
so
luck.
you admit that it was good luck and not necessarily conscious thinking.
Good luck, great teams of people.
Yeah, staying away from real estate must have been staying away from serious temptation.
Yes. We did a lot of capital market activity around real estate, but we didn't build up a banking loan book around real estate. So I think there were some lessons in that. A pretty good shot.
Yeah.
I like that.
So Gunit, the next phase of banking will certainly be determined by what happens across the world in terms of global recovery. How are we recovering in a serious way?
Difficult question, Shaili. I think most people would argue that the recovery has surprised them, or the sharpness of the recovery has surprised them as much as the crisis surprised them as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So that means there's sort of there's a sense of euphoria attached.
There's a sense of euphoria, but the debate is still on whether it's whatever V-shaped, or which people hope, or W-shaped, which people fear, or a square root, which is probably the more likely scenario.
Well, what is your choice? The square root?
I would think so. If you had to make me pick one, I would say the square root.